Welcome, and thanks for joining CCA today. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping matters. So first and foremost, we are taking registrations for this event. If you look in the chat function, you'll notice that there's a co-host named CCA with the line and then register here. If you're a Monash University student, please send through your ID, your student ID privately. That's our secretary, Karina, behind that weirdly named account. And we'll then be using that to register all of you on the MSA portal, just for our own admin purposes. A little bit different since we are online now. In terms of housekeeping, please ensure that you are on mute at all times unless you're speaking. This is so we don't disturb the overall experience of anyone else, and we give all our attention to our wonderful panelists. If you are comfortable, turn on your cameras. I'm sure the panelists and myself would love to see who we're talking to. There's nothing worse than staring at a few blank screens. And for the Q&A, ensure you are in speaker mode. There's a little option at the very top for you to do that. This is because we'll be spotlighting whoever is talking, and it gives you the best experience. If you have any questions at any point throughout the event, for our panelists, CCA related, women in tech related, just post them in the chat and we'll endeavor to answer as many as possible. Our annual Women in Technology event is something that's really important to us because at CCA, we really do strive to promote equality as much as possible, and this event is one of the ways we do so. As a computer science student, I've been to many of these events myself. However, when it comes to women in technology, and we did this a little bit with the poll, not gonna lie, but the topic is often reduced to a set of numbers and statistics, which is really important to actually showcase what this is all about. But tonight, our goal is actually to focus on humans, so on the women themselves, because they're some truly incredible women in technology. And personally, I'm so passionate about raising awareness on the awesome things that they've actually achieved. This event is going to comprise of 3 main sections: a keynote, which we'll start off with, followed by a Q&A panel, and finally an introduction to the concept of a personal portfolio and a bit of web development as well. I want to say a really big thank you to Telstra and Code Like a Girl for providing our panelists for this evening. And at this point, I'd like to reiterate that you are all more than welcome to send through questions at any time, and that we will be trying to answer as many of them as possible throughout the event. Again, if you haven't registered yet, please do so by messaging your student ID to the Register Here account. Now that that's all out of the way, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight, who will be answering questions both immediately after her presentation through a one-on-one chat, as well as in our Q&A panel. Debbie is an experienced principal within the Telstra Wireless Operations Department and has a history of working in the telecommunications industry. Having strong leadership skills and a wide array of experience, we're so excited to have her on the panel tonight, and she'll be representing Telstra during the keynote presentation. She has also worked at Oricon and UGL Limited. She's passionate and a believer in equality and diversity at the workplace, so I can't hear what she has to say. With that, Debbie, take it away.
Thank you, Aditi, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you all today. I'm thrilled to have the chance to talk about my career, and hopefully as I talk through my journey, you'll find some similarities with your own journey. But in any case, I hope you go away from tonight thinking more about your own potential and look at future opportunities or decisions that you make a little bit different. So, back in high school, I always leant towards science. I had a keen interest in science, and I always had a dream to build bridges. So in year 12, my focus was to choose a civil engineering degree. Obviously, it was really exciting, but daunting at the same time to choose what university I was going to apply to. The big university campuses had a certain appeal. However, the clincher for me was looking at the degrees that included industry-based learning. And in hindsight, this was a game changer. It helped me to get a job at the end of my course, and it was really the beginning of networking for me. So some of you may be thinking, how did I get from civil engineering to becoming what I am now, which is a principal in a technology company? It seems like a bit of a leap, and it is, but one thing that I've realised in doing an engineering degree is that it really sets you up for so many possibilities. It teaches you to be agile, to be adaptable, and it opens up opportunities that you may not have imagined possible. So engineering degrees help develop the problem solving part of your brain. You learn to break down issues and experiment to solve problems, whether it's writing a piece of code to manage the light sequence at a busy intersection, or whether it's choosing the right steel beam as part of your bridge design. It's all about trying to find a solution, and if it doesn't work, tweaking and trying again. And this is fundamental thinking for so many parts of your life, both work and personal. So applying this skill into your work life opens up so many doors. The first part of my career was in consulting engineering, which was really exciting. It was fast paced, you got to work on amazing projects and had work colleagues that made work life fun. The hours were really long, but as a young person, you could run on a half-empty tank. You could, put in an all-nighter at work, but still have the energy to go out on the weekend. So, it was a fun time in my life, and I did get to design my bridges, and I also did a lot of other fantastic projects, such as Eureka Tower in Melbourne and Petronas Towers in Malaysia. So exciting for me. After about 5 years in the consulting industry, the way that I looked at life started to change, and the culture at the firm that I was at the time became more apparent to me, and I actually didn't like it. It didn't fit with my personal goals. So there was next to no focus on work-life balance, and I started to question whether I wanted to work for a company that didn't put personal and family values high on the agenda. I was getting to an age where I was thinking about starting a family myself, and when I looked at other colleagues and what they had done, it just didn't look sustainable. So I had to make a huge decision to make a career change. And I needed to find a company or an industry where I could use my skills, but had the values that I wanted to live. So obviously this was daunting. I'd spent, more than a decade working towards what I thought was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So to turn my back on that was a really difficult decision. But if only I knew then what I knew now, it wouldn't feel so daunting, because I wasn't really turning my back on all that hard work. I was actually building on that. All that hard work became a solid foundation for the rest of my career. And this year I celebrated my 19th year at Telstra. I've gone from being a site acquisition coordinator, part of a team that rolled out the mobile phone network in Victoria and Tasmania, to now a principal who manages $1 billion mobile phone program across Australia, and manages the regulatory compliance for Telstra's EME, our electromagnetic energy program. When I joined Telstra, we had just rolled out 2G, and now I'm part of rolling out Telstra's 5G network. So, we're one of the first carriers in the world to turn on 5G, and I've been involved in a number of world firsts around 5G in the EME measurements, smart homes, millimetre wave, beam steering, just to name a few. So cutting edge and really exciting work. And I'm proud to work for a company whose values I'm happy to live, and I'm proud to lead a team that has permission to think outside the box, to try something different without the fear of failure. Don't get me wrong, we do fail sometimes, but to us that's fundamental. It's part of being at the bleeding edge of technology advancement. So having permission to repeat something 100 times until you get it right, it really changes people's thinking, and it allows them to test a different path without fear, to start down a route and then realise that maybe it's not right, maybe it's not what the customer's going to need, and then being able to stop and pivot, change direction, and go again. This is what makes our work more interesting. This is what drives us as a team and makes coming to work exciting. And that's what keeps Telstra as a world leader. So, every day I get to use these problem-solving skills, whether it's to deal with, a mobile phone site where the RF design is not working, whether it's dealing with budget issues, or maybe it's a customer who's disgruntled because we're about to roll out 5G in their neighbourhood. You go into autopilot and you go into just solving the issue, to breaking it down into manageable pieces, deciding what's important, and making sure that you always have the question in your back of your head: is this going to achieve something? Am I working towards something which is going to be meaningful? And that's really important. As a people manager, it's so important to develop a culture and an environment that lets people thrive, and it lets people be curious and lets them challenge themselves and others, including me. But you have to balance that with ensuring you foster a working environment that's inclusive and respectful and diverse, all the while making sure that you meet those goals that you've been set. So a great benefit at working at Telstra is that you can stick to the pure technology stream and you can build yourself towards being a technology specialist. Or if you find that you've got the gift of building relationships and leading people, then you've got the opportunity to become a technology leader. I didn't specifically choose to go down the path of being a technology leader. And I don't want to sound sexist at all, but women have a natural nurturing ability, and that's a really important trait to have as a leader. The ability to build relationships and build trust, the ability to connect with your team members and other people and teams that you work with. It really helps to build a safe place to work, and this in turn allows your team to challenge the norm, to be innovative, and to find their courage. So this leads to huge leaps in their personal development, which for me as a people manager is really rewarding. I know that I'm really proud with the team that I lead, to see them support each other, step in when someone's struggling. The way they encourage each other and offer to coach each other is amazing. And you see that over time, the team lifts, their output lifts, and the quality of the work improves. As a people manager in the technology space, this is fantastic, because this what cultivates a working environment that we need to be cutting edge and to be world class. So for my team and what I've built, we're ready to face any challenge. We have resilience. We look forward to pushing the envelope, and this is what Telstra fosters. This is the environment that Telstra encourages, and it's what it's all about, to ensure that we're amongst the first in the world, whether it's 6G or whatever the future brings when it comes to technology. Thank you, Aditi.
Amazing. Thank you, Debbie. I'd love to touch on a few points that you mentioned just now, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So firstly, you mentioned the importance of problem solving and critical thinking, but also doing that with empathy in the workplace. These are very, I guess, far-fetched. It almost seems far-fetched for us as students. I'd love to get your thoughts on how we can actually develop these abilities while we're still at university.
Yeah, sure. You find that, or I find with the people that I work with, as soon as you take away the shackles, take away the idea that coming up with a solution that might not be the end solution, or coming up with an idea that might not be picked up as the idea that they're going to run with, lessens that person's courage and their confidence in themselves. So with us, it's always about questioning. So I think that should be the same environment that you have at university. So when you're in a lecture or in a tute or in the middle of a lab, ask the question. That sounds really interesting. Can you explain that bit to me a bit more? Because that's not how I interpreted, or that's not how I thought that, from a statistical perspective, that it should be. So making sure that you always find your courage to test something and be really curious. That's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to build up your own confidence, and how you're going to build up your own knowledge on a particular topic.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Especially the point about courage. I think all of us sitting in big, well, now sitting behind a screen, but usually sitting in big lecture theatres, it can be daunting to get up and ask a question. So finding outlets to actually be able to do that is a skill in itself at university. Now, was there a particular experience in either engineering or technology that has actually shaped the way in which you approach problems or tasks in the workplace?
So at Telstra, there's still not that many women in wireless. So I am the only female senior leader within the wireless group, and so making sure that. And this can go both ways, right? So some people say, oh, sometimes you don't get heard as a female. And I kind of think it's actually the opposite. If I'm sitting in a room with, 20 other people and they're all male, if I'm going to say something, then it's going to be something that they remember, because, if it's a gentleman that said something, they'll be like, oh, was that Dan or was that Phil, or who said that? Whereas if I said something, being the only female, they remember it. So one of the things for me, which was a bit of a watershed moment, was that I've got to be really careful that I don't overthink a question before I actually speak up, because in my head I go through, is that a stupid question? Are they going to laugh? Are they going to say, you don't understand the technology? And so I would stay quiet. And I got to a point in a meeting a bit earlier on in my career where I actually said, no, every question is valid. No question is stupid. And you actually find that by asking the question, it actually creates conversation, and so it's a bit of an aha moment. You go, oh, great, I'm not that stupid. But it's definitely, for me, was a point in my life where I said, I've got to find that courage, and I've got to make sure that I speak up when I do have a question or a point to make, because my comment is just as valid as anyone else in the room.
Sure. And those are all really great points. Based on the reactions of some of the other panelists, as well as some of the other committee members, I can definitely see that it's something that we've all struggled with or experienced at some point. Joanna, I see your question about feeling lost in one's career. I think we're actually going to save that, because I'd love to hear your own thoughts on it as well when we get to the Q&A panel. Debbie, I got a few more final questions for you before we do invite our two lovely panelists. The first one, they're a bit more in relation to your time at Telstra. What would you say has been the greatest highlight of your job at Telstra so far?
I must admit that it is taking on the role as a people manager. At the beginning of taking on a people manager role, I brought in some people from another part of the business, and just like we were talking about, I felt that they were almost like lost puppies at the pound. They had no confidence. They felt like they had no direction or purpose, and it took time, but actually building them up, and making sure that they understood where they fit into the big picture, and then watching them develop and grow has been amazing. And the team is just brilliant. They're a fantastic team. They're so cohesive, and they're so supportive of each other. And whenever I bring someone new into the team, I actually ask myself a question and say, if I had to do that role, which parts of it couldn't I do? And that is then me working out the type of person that needs to do that role. Because if I'm going to support them, it's great that where I think I've got weaknesses, they've got their strengths, because that gives us a great balance. So so building up a really diverse team that I have now is because each time I bring someone else on, I go through that thinking process.
Yeah, and I think that when you do talk about, you know, being influenced by the people around you, it's so important to have a strong team because you can learn from all the incredible people that you surround yourself with and fill in those weaknesses for the future.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got people in my team smarter than me, don't worry.
Me too. The CCA committee is great. In terms of Telstra again, I was wondering, you've said so much great stuff about the culture at Telstra and all the opportunities. Can you go into a little bit more depth about, as students, how we can get involved with Telstra?
Yeah, sure. So Telstra, and you know, we've tried so many different things over the years, with you know, different levels of success. But one of the really successful programs we have is the summer vacation program, and my team get really excited when the early development team come to us and say, you know, we've got some people that can start. How many do you want? And we're like, yeah, give us as many as you want, because for us, having the university students join us just really lifts the team. It lifts the work that we do, the amount of work that we do. It lifts the team in its confidence and its thinking, because it's an injection of someone different, someone that normally doesn't have any you know, fears or any historical boundaries that they think they need to stay in, and so they come up with fantastic ideas and they really push the team. So taking the opportunity to look up the summer vacation program and then our graduate program that we have, which is a really strong program, would be great for any university students thinking that they'd like to join Telstra.
Yeah, that just goes to show the importance of diversity, not just in regard to gender, but also things like age and experience and how everyone can bring such unique things to the table.
Yeah,
On that,
absolutely.
on that note, I would like to introduce our other panelists so that we can have a more in-depth discussion about what it means to be a woman in technology and hear that diverse range of opinions. First up, we have Joanna. She's a third-year student at Monash and is studying finance and computer science. She's currently doing the industry-based learning program that Monash offers at Transurban. At the moment, she's been spending a lot of her time baking during quarantine, so really excited to hear all the really cool things you've been making, because personally, I'm a terrible cook. On a more professional note, she enjoys automating tasks for herself and for the team, because everyone has more important things to do, and if you can make life easier, why not? She's been a facilitator for a leadership program at her old high school and is now a mentor for IT students and business faculty students as well. She absolutely loves meeting new people, and the reason we have Joanna on board is we love your expertise and insight as a fellow student. Next up, we have Mai. She's a consultant developer at ThoughtWorks and also a volunteer at Code Like a Girl. As a diversity and inclusion member at the Australian Computer Society's Victoria branch, she loves executing ideas that will help bring change in our society. This includes her role as a co-organiser of the Vox Days Australia conference, which is a conference made for developers by developers, and also a conference that really champions equality and diversity in the tech industry. When she's not creating away solutions at ThoughtWorks or running conferences, surprisingly, she still finds the time to do things like conducting workshops at schools across Melbourne and organisations to promote women in tech through Code Like a Girl and Car Sales Go for Tech initiatives. As you can see, we have an absolutely incredible panel, and I'm beyond excited to hear your thoughts. Let's start off with something a little general. So perhaps Mai, would you like to expand on what's the need for more women in technology, and why is this important to you?
To me, diversity means to have minds from different backgrounds, of different races, gender, and culture working together on solving our problems. Why do we need diversity in tech? Yeah? Or why do I think that diversity in tech is really important? Because it's good for everyone. And that is really the truth. It's good for the industry, it's good for the for people, and it's good for the women as well. Having women in tech is beneficial and vital because like it will future proof the workforce and tackling unemployment, to providing role models to girls, for girls and young women. One of the most important reasons that I think that diversity in tech is really important is that because imagine that everything we build, everything we see on the road, or in your house, informed by our lives. We know that technology is a big part of building the world of the future. Yeah. So if that world is being built under the leadership of a single gender, one perspective, one experience, how does that affect our world? So imagine that the product you're using is being built by a single gender, like man, I'm not trying to offend any man counterpart, okay? I'm just trying to give an example of, hey, if that product is being built by one single gender only, what does it mean for the consumers? Because the consumers, the product will of course miss the perspective from the other gender or from the other people from the other background. So in saying that, I think that we need more women in tech, and especially building tech, not just simply in tech, but more building tech as well. At the moment, we see a shortage of women in STEM careers, and having more women in STEM equal to better diversity in workforce, which then equals to better products for our future. If more women are not encouraged to take up STEM in school or university, we will miss out a lot in the future, a big chunk of innovation and talents from them. And for us women, or for the next generation of women, if you are not encouraged to take up STEM now in school or uni, yeah, you will be at risk of having a good future career in the future.
On that note, you mentioned some of the barriers that women face in the current tech landscape and some of the things we can do to overcome them. I'd love to pass this question over to Joanna. So as a student, what do you believe we can do currently to ensure that there are more girls or more women going into technology, and how we can overcome some of these barriers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'll first start off with a bit about myself. So I do a double degree in commerce and computer science. And initially when I went into this degree, I didn't know which side I would actually lean more towards. But I think right now I'm more leaning towards the technology side, simply because when there are companies calling, recruiters calling, and like advertising to you constantly, then eventually you just have to pick up the phone or like respond to these things. So I think a lot of companies have got it the right way and are actively targeting, I guess, more students. I also think another good idea would be to target even younger students, so from high school or primary school even. So that's exactly what Mai is doing with Code Like a Girl, I believe, to teach younger students. In terms of the barriers, I think it would be, the biggest barrier would be your self-confidence to take the risk into something that hasn't been so well defined for you. So I'd say there are a lot of other careers. So say if you do med, you become a doctor. If you do law, you become a lawyer. Or if you do nursing, you become a nurse. But when you go into technology, it's not necessarily that you will become a programmer or you will become a security specialist. Like there is just so much that's out there. And the biggest barrier would be to choose that career path and kind of decide your own path and decide that you are going to take that risk and choose your own destination.
That's a lovely way to put it. You touched on courage a little bit there, which was also touched on during Debbie's talk earlier. Debbie, did you have any thoughts on the barriers that women face and how we can help overcome them?
Yeah, I think sometimes we find that we think we have to follow a certain path, and the promotion of girls through STEM seems to be seen as a bit of an outlier. It's something that most girls, and when I got involved with Robo Girls, going out to schools and having chats to the grade 5 and 6 girls, and it was like, what do you want to do with your life? And it was almost like a stereotypical response. They thought that they had to go down a certain path, and it's not until you say, well, what about this? You've just enjoyed doing this. You know that that's connected to this. So if you went down that path, it could be something different. And so just opening them up to the opportunity is a great start, because without, as a kid, it's daunting, even to think about your subjects that you're going to select in high school, let alone what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So getting them excited about STEM subjects and getting them excited about those opportunities to me is a great start to at least getting them thinking that they can go down that path, and they don't have to go down the typical path.
Knowing what pathway you want to go down can be extremely daunting, especially at such a young age. So I'm going to throw this back to you, Debbie. Based on the question asked before, have you ever felt lost in your career or life? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always overthinking it, and I'm always doubting myself, whether it's at Telstra and the job that I've got, and moving into higher people technology leadership roles. But even back when I made the decision to change industries, I doubted myself on, whether another industry would find my skills worthy of their company. So for me, the important thing is networking, because as soon as you have a network in place, it's like a little bit of a safety net. It allows you to have conversations with people, to test your thinking in different aspects, and even the opportunity to say, hey, I know you work over in that field. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? What's it like? What do you do? What's your day-to-day work like? What's the company's values, and how does that fit with you? And from that, I think you can and you can start to answer your own questions, because you're starting to get the information in front of you. And as an engineer, I need some information in front of me so I can make good judgment decisions.
Yeah, and we'll get back to the concept of networking and career development in just a little bit. However, before we do get to that, we've discussed what are the barriers and how we can overcome it. But the next stage is actually staying in the industry. And so, Maya, would you like to tell us what are your thoughts or your motivations for staying in the tech industry?
Well, how do I say that? Okay. Okay, cool. I think that in order for you to stay doing anything, yeah, first off, you have to start with passion. Yeah, you have to love what you are doing. Yeah, so first off, I want to give you an advice on this part here. Don't do things that you don't love, okay? Don't even try to go and try to, hey, I love doing B, but then I'm going to go with B, C or D or Z just because it's safer for me. Because down the path, in a few years' time, you will regret that decision. So I made that kind of decision when I first graduated from uni. I could not find a job as a programmer, so I changed my career into marketing. It didn't work out for me. After 10 years of being marketing, management, and being stay-at-home mom, I changed back into tech industry, and I found a job as a programmer after 10 years. Yeah, so what I'm telling you in here, that be true to yourself and try to only do the things that you love doing. And if for me, if it's the tech industry, being a programmer is my dream job. How can I overcome any barriers so that I can stay in the tech industry? First, I had to keep myself always learning new things, because the tech industry, the tech world keeps changing at a very fast pace. Yeah, so you always had to equip yourself with new learning, new technologies, and new skills. Secondly is that you have to dare to challenge yourself. Yeah, so don't be afraid to fail. So anytime you are given any chance from your colleague, from your top manager, like, hey, Mai, we have a brand new project in here. However, it's not really like your skill set or something like that, but we want to give it to you. Just say yes and do it. Yeah, just say yes and do it. Don't even think twice about, hey, I'm not 100% up to the requirement, I cannot do that properly. Okay, don't think too much, don't overcomplicate things, and just challenge yourself. Do new things, say yes to those challenges, because you will learn on the go. And thirdly, I want to tell you, this is one of the best advice I have been given by someone else in the company. Find yourself a role model or a mentor in the company. Yeah, so find yourself a mentor that really inspire you to do things. When you look at that person, you wish you can do the same thing. That is really powerful. It helped me a lot a few years ago. For a few years ago, I in my company, there was this really great female manager. Yeah, that she was really courageous and brave and helping other people in the same company. I look up to her, and I always came to her to ask for help. She just shared with me her story, her journey, and her experiences. And that make me feel like, hey, that is similar to my story. She overcome the challenges. She can overcome all those things. I know that I can be like her one day, or I know that I can do that too. So find yourself a mentor who can help you on or in your journey in the tech industry, will really help you to stay in the industry for long, and not just really just staying, but more like you will thrive in the industry as well.
It's like you're predicting my next question, Mai. So in terms of role models, we're going to take a quick moment here to actually do a poll. So if we could please get that up. This is in relation to strong women, strong females in the technology industry. We've put up just 3. We know there are a lot more incredible women. So feel free to answer this poll. And while you are doing that, I'd love to give this question to all 3 of our panelists. How can we be a strong role model for other women and uplift other women? Anyone can take the floor with this.
I might start off with this one. I don't think it's necessarily a need for you to be a strong role model. I think something else that is a really positive sign is just being there and just kind of existing and being a point of contact for other people. So I don't necessarily think you need to be a strong or amazing person just to do that. But I'll hand it off to the others.
No, I agree. I agree, Joanna. A role model can be so many different things. So, you know, you can be a formal role model where you go through the mentoring and so forth. but even just a role model to my children, showing them that both the mother and the father can have jobs, and that together we manage the house, and have time for the kids, and that they can come to me or to their dad to ask questions, or if they've got concerns or they're not happy with something, having strength there. So for me, a role model, is so important in the family environment. So, not just your immediate family, but, to my siblings and to their children, when they ask questions about, the work that I do and so forth. I think that's really important as well. So, look outside the normal role model, and you'll see lots of opportunity.
I want to add to Debbie and Joanna on the notion of role models. Yeah, to me, role models do not have to be some kind of superhero that you see in action movies. Yeah, but role models are very real. Yeah, role models are, to me, role models, they are genuine. They are genuine. They are honest. They are authentic. Yeah. So what a role model to me is just any person I say in my company, in my house, in my friend circle, who stay true to who they are, who are the most of themselves, and who try their best at all times to be the better version of themselves.
Great answer.
That is my role model.
A wonderful answer. Maybe we could just get the answers to that poll up now. Oh, we got a tie between Grace Hopper and Melanie Perkins. So the point of this poll was to show everyone that there are absolutely amazing people that are female and in the world of technology. Did any of our panelists have any thoughts on one of these three lovely ladies? So we have Ada Lovelace, Grace Hopper, and Melanie Perkins.
I have to say that seriously, I do not know the three. I have heard of their names, but seriously, it's more like I really never look up into their profile, so I'm not sure how they are. So I cannot really compare like which one describes myself.
Fair enough. I'll go into who they are in just a second. Recently, we did an event with another club where we did a bingo about all the women in STEM, and the goal of that event was to do things like this to showcase who is there. Personally, for me, I think I agree with the Grace Hopper and Melanie Perkins thing, just because Melanie is like this young, incredible entrepreneur that's Australian, doing great things. She's the founder of Canva, who recently had a massive valuation. And it's amazing to see people that you can relate to in the industry, which kind of goes back to Joanna's point about, you need role models that are just there, doing their job and being able to see what they're doing. Joanna, Debbie, did either of you have any thoughts on this?
I don't have any thoughts on this. All I know is I went to the Grace Hopper celebration down under in Queensland with really nice weather and wonderful speakers.
But I think to your point, Aditi, these people need to resonate with you, and you need to find a connection with them. And so that maybe that's why your poll, I can't actually see the poll on my computer, but maybe that's why the poll was quite even, because different people resonate in different ways.
That's so true. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about career development and advice to wrap up our panel. We have a few questions in this area. The first one is, Debbie, you kind of touched on this, so I might ask Joanna or Mai, but was there an experience that led you to technology as a career? Can you think of one or two pivotal moments that made you decide this is what you wanted to do?
I can answer this question. I have not told you about how I got into tech, yeah? And okay, I first got exposed into tech when I was 15 years old. Let me tell you the story of my when I was 15 years old. At that time, I was studying grade 10 in Melbourne. Yeah, and I had a dream, and my dream was to become a manager to make a lot of money, just like my parents. Just like my parents, they own their own business. So I was thinking, oh my God, I want to be like them. I want to make a lot of money. Yeah, so I studied all kind of accounting, finance, management subjects with the dream, with the hope that one day I will get it. I will get to become a manager. Yeah, but then on one beautiful day, a guy friend came to me and put a challenge to me. He showed me his program written in all like those crazy symbols that you could ever imagine, and he challenged me to understand that program. I was so furious and I was so competitive. I'm still am competitive now, yeah. But then I was so competitive at that time because how dare a guy challenge me to a program? I wouldn't get as furious if anyone challenged me, yeah. But then at that point in time, he was so cocky. So I just hate his guts. And he told me, I
I hope he's
challenge
not
you.
your husband now.
He is. That was supposed to be my ending, you know.
Sorry, Mai.
No, so he was so cocky. He challenged me like, "Hey, Mai, look at my beautiful program. Do you understand it?" Yeah. And then I was like, "Oh my God!" I was thinking to myself, like, "What the heck? All those crazy symbols, you know?" And then he said, "Like, I challenge you to understand this." Okay, I said yes. I would take the challenge on, and I spent the whole night Yahoo search all those crazy symbols. At that time, it was Yahoo, a very popular search. So the next day, I came back to him feeling very confident. Yeah, I spent the whole night, a few hours, searching on Yahoo of what the program did. So in that morning, I showed him what I did. I showed him the program. I told him that this is a program written in C. Yeah, that is the first thing. I show him how I compile and run the program. Yeah, so that's the second thing. Third thing, what I did, I changed the program so that now the program display I am sorry my 100 times in the loop. His original program was just simply saying hello world, all those things. Yeah, I changed the program. I showed him what I could do. And after that challenge, and actually he did say sorry to me. Oh my God, sorry, Mai. I did not know that you could go and do all those things. I'm so surprised that you could do all those things. Yeah, apology accepted. And I felt amazing after that day because it was like a aha moment for me. Like, oh my God, programming, I can actually program something very simple like that. And what I love about programming at that time is the feeling of accomplishment when you finish writing a program. Every time you finish writing a program, you can see that it actually executed. You feel the best. It's like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I could do all those things. So since that day onwards, I found my passion. I decided not to become a manager anymore, but I'm going to become a programmer because I love this feeling. I want to be able to do all these things here, feeling this for the rest of my life. That's when I decide I'm going to go Monash Uni and studying IT.
I love that story. That's so great. So you kind of touched on it as well, and you've already answered this question in the chat, but my next question was going to be in terms of how can we learn as professionals? Because yeah, technology is just one of those industries where you have to keep learning. I feel like the more I've learned in my degree, the more I've realized I have to learn. And I'd love to pass it to you, Debbie. How do you learn new things, and what's the latest thing you've learned?
Yeah, you're right. Learning is a huge part of your development, and there's the learning around going and reading a book or going and doing a course. But for me, the most effective learning is the hands-on learning, the learning while you work, the repetitive work that you do builds that knowledge and builds your learning. And going back and you know, going over the same thing again, explaining it to yourself again and again is really important. And you know, the example of what did I just learn? So at the moment in Telstra, and sorry if I get a bit technical, but we're working through the refarming of a couple of our frequencies. So we're trying to refarm bandwidth and at a certain frequency, at a couple of frequencies, into our 5G network, so that we can have a low band, a mid band, and a high band frequency for 5G for the devices. And so that refarming and setting out the understanding the different bandwidths and when we can hand over the bandwidths is really, really complicated. So the first time someone explained to me, I was like, okay, I think I can grasp one part of that concept. So let me go away and reinforce that myself. And then if it's okay, I'm going to come back and ask you again. And so the next day I went back and said, right, we talked about this. So my understanding is, and I went and re-explained the one concept I thought I understood, and when I got confirmation I understood, I go, okay, now the next bit, so tell me more about that. And so I broke it down into the little pieces so I can slowly understand. So that's something that I've learned this week, actually, so very very recent.
I would love to hear more about that. Maybe another time, but it sounds really interesting. Joanna, what about you, especially as an industry-based learning student? How's the learning process been so far?
Right now, the learning process has been a lot of Googling, a lot of searching on Confluence, the Wikipedia page, I guess, and a lot of just asking people and asking if they have time to kind of share their screen and show me what they're doing at the moment. So that's my learning process at the moment.
That's great. And Mai, what's the paint drip people? Do tell us about that.
Let me share my screen, yeah, so I can explain that better. If you can, cool. Can I share my screen? I don't want. Now. Yeah, cool. Let me share my screen. Where am I? Wait. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah,
we can.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Let me click on that again. Can you see the paint drip people on my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, let me close that. So basically, the paint drip people is a concept of whether or not you should generalize or specialization. Yeah, this question would pop up a lot in your learning journey. Yeah, people would say, like, hey, should I specialize or should I generalize in a topic? Specialization means that you pick a topic, you pick an industry, and then you stay learning that for a very, very long time, like years and years, 10 years, 20 years, and become a specialist in that area. However, generalist is different in that you do not specialize in one thing, but you are confident, you are knowledgeable in a lot of few different topics or areas. And what I'm trying to say in here is that the paint drip people say that imagine your learning journey as the paint drip. You draw the brush across the line once, and then you can see the paint keep dripping down to the bottom, and that drip is how much you learn in the topic. And every time you learn something new, or every time you spend more time in learning something, you draw another brush, and then the paint drips again. And that's what it means by generalization in here. For me, I love learning. I do not love being a specialist in one area. I love learning a lot of few different things. And this is all based on my work and more on my, like, if I go and say someone talking about a sorry, my little boy.
Mommy, can I eat something? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
What can I eat?
Ask Daddy.
I don't know. Okay, Mommy.
Sorry.
Please,
Can you go out now for 5 minutes?
What can I eat? I'm hungry.
Ask Daddy.
Can I
He's
eat
very naughty, I
not?
told you.
Very not.
Okay.
Yeah, I can eat anything.
So every time I get assigned to one project, or every time I get put into a new area of like React or Kubernetes or AWS, I draw another brush. We draw another brush into the pane, and then my line of that topic drip further. So at the end of your journey, you will see that how much you learn about all of those topics here. Yeah, so that is a pain drip.
Lovely.
You heard a lot about tea people, yeah? It's like they specialize in one thing.
That sounds lovely. May I just get you to stop sharing screen so that we can see everyone?
Oh, sure, I haven't. Really?
We can still see your screen. There we go.
Yes,
Okay.
cool.
So, keeping on the topic of learning, firstly, that pain drip people concept is so interesting. And I'm just learning so much today, and I've got like all these notes, so I'm looking forward to researching on more afterwards. In terms of learning, Debbie, maybe could you shed some light on some of the resources that you've used in the past, or any recommendations for resources when learning new concepts?
Yeah, so I won't talk about the typical learning resources, but I'll talk about one of the learning resources that is an opportunity at Telstra, and that's the ability to act in someone's role. So we have a program at Telstra where you can, through your manager, come up with a bit of a development plan, and if there's certain people in the company that are doing roles that you're interested in, you can actually go and act in their role for a period of time, which is an amazing learning opportunity. Obviously, it's intense and it's heavy, but it's a fantastic way to test your interest, test your knowledge, test your skills. It can be short term. It can be, for a week, or in some cases, you can act in someone's role for weeks or months. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and I'm sure other companies do it as well. I've taken up that opportunity many times, and I think that that's been amazing from a development and from a training perspective for me.
That's great to hear. I know lots of companies have opportunities like that, and it's always really interesting to hear about things like 20% projects, acting with another employee. It's really cool. Joanna, you touched on how you used internal resources. However, in the lead up to your industry-based learning placement, were there any particular resources or any particular people that you reached out to get better prepared?
No, so I didn't actually reach out to anyone or even prepare for the placement other than just complete my uni degree. I think outside of my uni degree, I've always been, I guess, lazy in a way that if something takes me a couple of minutes or hours to do, I'd rather automate it and spend like 2 days doing it. So then the next few times I don't have to do it. So I think that has been a great learning experience in itself.
I remember when we were studying for exams together, you had already automated all the sorts of problems that could possibly pop up. But they say the lazy programmers are always the good ones. In terms of, I guess, moving forward from where we are today, do you ladies have any advice in general about how we can make the most of our time, both in lockdown, but also considering like future employment opportunities?
Yeah, I'll go first. Grab the opportunities. If it's something that you're interested in, Mai made a really good point that you have to be interested in something. You have to have a passion for something. So if there's an opportunity, take it, grasp it, go with it. Even if it's just, for instance, for you, Joanna, doing your industry-based learning remotely is meaning that you're not kind of building that personal rapport. So, you know, can you go to your direct manager and say, hey, can I shadow you in some of the meetings that you have? Can I shadow, you know, someone else in some meetings as well? Just so that, you know, while you're in lockdown and you've got the opportunity to dial in, that you take it and really kind of learn and take advantage of the time that we're sitting in our study, sitting in our desk at home. Grasp that opportunity.
Yeah. And May, do you have any final words of wisdom or advice for our attendees today?
I think that one of the most important things that I would give to my younger self, if I was you now, yeah, is to find yourself a mentor. That is really important. It's like it would have. I wish that I had a mentor when I was still in uni, who could share the experience with me and share the story with me, so that I could see myself that, hey, there's this person here who is my mentor. She's a role model to me. I could be like her. Yeah, you cannot be someone you cannot see. So find yourself someone that inspire you so much, and ask that person to be your mentor. Yeah, that is the first thing. Yeah. And secondly, just say yes and take risk. Don't be afraid to fail. You're so young now. I wish that I would have the courage to just do all those things. You have time now. So just take the risk and say yes to opportunity, and don't be scared. You have a lot of time. Unlike me.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you to Debbie and Joanna as well. We will be wrapping up the Q&A section of the panel there. We'll be moving on to the concept of a personal portfolio in just a second. Before we do that, thank you. Your insights were amazing. I've learned so much, and I'm sure our attendees have as well. Thank you to Code Like a Girl and Telstra, and Joanna, who's representing herself today, for providing us with panelists. And yeah, I'm sure everyone has found it super valuable to learn how each of you have had such unique pathways into technology. Some of you knowing when you were 15 years old, to some of you, having a pivotal point where you moved from engineering to the tech space, and one of you who's still in that position of trying to figure out where to go next. So thank you again. Feel free to stick around. The next 15 minutes or so will be a chat about personal portfolios, as well as the introduction of a web development workshop, which attendees are more than welcome to have a look at in their own time. You can stick around, or you can also head off as well. It's up to the three.
Thank you, Aditi. I might go and feed my children. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it, and good luck to everyone. Stay safe.
You too.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks, Mai. Okay,
so my internet is really bad. I cannot even see anything. Take care.
Take care, Mai. Thank you. Alrighty, so Vivian, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. The next few minutes of our discussion will be surrounding personal portfolios. To start off, Vivian, did you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Vivian. I'm in my third year of studying Commerce and IT at Monash. I'm currently the Graphic Design and Marketing Officer at CCA, and I'm also a Marketing Officer at MAC and Monash Diversity. So I've always had an interest in design, so I thought it'd be a good idea to get involved with student societies to meet people and develop my design skills as well.
Amazing. We're going to dive right into it, just keeping time on my mind. So what is a personal portfolio?
So a personal portfolio is kind of like a place where you can show your work, show like how you've applied your skills that you've listed in your resume, and kind of add to your personal brand and show what you're about and what you care about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the great thing about a personal portfolio from a technology student's perspective is it gives you the opportunity to demonstrate your skills in web development, and more importantly, your ability to kind of take information, which in this case is about yourself, and translate that into a tangible product or something that people can actually understand. On that note, Vivian, why do we need a personal portfolio? And I guess, how does it fit into the recruitment process?
Yeah, so I think it helps develop your personal brand. When recruiters see your portfolio, they can get a better idea of like who you like and whether you're aligned with their culture or not. And I think in part of the recruitment process, it just helps them learn more about you if that's what they want to do, without having to like reach out to you for an interview yet. They can kind of suss you out more. And I think it did help me apply to student societies because it allowed them to see like what my previous work was and get a better idea of who I am.
Yeah, and we're going to pause there just for a second. If you haven't registered through our register here section in the chat function, please do so. This is just for our own admin purposes. So just message the person or the participant labeled as CCA line register here. They're a co-host, so you should be able to spot them pretty easily. Vivian, maybe to, I guess, investigate portfolios a little bit more, would you mind sharing yours? Because I know you have an absolutely incredible one, and we can go through all the different sections of it together.
Okay, thank you. I'll just share my screen now. Yeah, is it working?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is kind of my main page, which is the design portfolio. So here I just have the works that I've done, and if you click on each one, it has a little description. So this might be different for a coding portfolio where you might have examples of the work you've done and just kind of annotate it and talk through your ideas more. Here is just kind of showing like one of my interests. So I like taking photos. So that's just something like random about me. I thought it'd be interesting. And this page here kind of talks like more about who I am, what I'm studying and what I'm interested in. And I also have another page that shows my experience. So this is kind of like a template-based website, but it allows you to like showcase more of your work and put in any information that might not fit on your resume. So yeah.
Amazing. My favorite thing about this, I gotta say, is the fact that it's CCA colors. So props to you for that. How did you decide on the different sections to your portfolio?
So I guess when I created it, I had the idea to make it a design portfolio. So I started with that main page here, and then it kind of built on that by seeing what other templates they had. So the resume one was one that they had pre-made, so I thought that would be interesting to add. Same with the photos, or yeah.
Yeah, and I think that looks lovely. I really think that, you know, being able to figure out which sections you want in your portfolio is really important, because it is, at the end of the day, a showcase of who you are. And I love that you have the film photography section in it, because employers and companies are looking for more than just a robot. So it's lovely to see you have other interests as well outside of your main career. In terms of a more technological portfolio, as I'm aware some of you are computer science, IT, software development students, this is an opportunity for you to put your projects on there, whether that be to links to your GitHub repositories or little demo videos of products you've created. And yes, instead of putting your designs, that would be what you could do there. Again, your portfolio is a project. Another thing I noticed, Vivian, is you have your socials in the corner there. And I think, you know, it's a great way to, in a way, give a call to action to whoever's reading it. Because at the end of the day, you want them to contact you and to learn more about you. So having it there and, you know, letting them know that you can be reached via LinkedIn or you can be found on Behance is a great way to continue that relationship further. Moving on to the more technical side of things, how did you make this?
Yeah, so this is like a template-based platform, which is Portfolio Box. So they have a lot of templates available and it's free to use, and you can have, I think, up to 10 pages. So it was a really easy way for me to build my portfolio without having to actually create it yet. There's also a lot of other similar websites like Squarespace and Webflow and Wix that can do similar things. So yeah.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that, you know, you can be in any industry and still create a portfolio for yourself. You don't necessarily need to know how to code, and that stems down to figuring out why you're creating the portfolio. On the note of creating portfolios, however, if you are interested in developing it yourself, we've posted an article on our Medium publication for you to have a look at. It's a brief introduction into HTML and CSS, just to give you the basic structure of how a portfolio would work. We teach you how to add images, how to add text, how to use CSS to format things, and most importantly, how to center things using CSS. Because for those of you that have front-end experience, I'm sure you're aware, centering things is the hardest part. So we've included that in there as well. There's also a background into web development and what HTML and CSS actually are. So yeah, if you want to take a look at that and further develop your portfolios, please do so. We would love to see your portfolios, by the way. If you have one, feel free to share it in the link in the chat now and we can have a look. Otherwise, if you're going to create it after this session, feel free to reach out to any of the committee members, reach out to Vivian or I, and we'd love to see what you've been up to. So that's our portfolio section. We really wanted to not only go through what a portfolio is, but also to show you how you can get one up and how to get started. Because I think, you know, there's nothing worse than going to an event and not being able to actually produce what they've shown you. With that being said, Vivian, did you have any final thoughts on portfolios and what to do from here?
Yeah, sure. So I think if you want to get started now, I think template-based websites are a really good way to go. You can get them set up quickly and work on creating your own in the meantime. Also, you don't have to have like a whole ton of experience to start a portfolio. I think it's just a nice place to showcase your work. And I think recruiters will still appreciate it, whether or not like you've done a lot of work or a little bit of work. Like it's nice to see what someone's about. Yeah.
Vivian, would you just mind going back to the homepage of the CCA publication? If you click on the link. Yeah. This is something new we've started, so I just thought I'd walk you through it really quickly. We are a part tech, part business club, and so we're trying to branch out more into the tutorial space just so that all of you can learn as we learn. This is very much a committee-led thing. Any projects that we've created in our own time will be uploading to this so that you can create it with us. We have 2 tutorials on there at the moment. The first one is web development, so to stem off from today's event. The next tutorial is a Discord bot tutorial that was created by Ivan, our lovely IT officer, and he goes through the basic structure of how to create a Discord bot. It's a really great tutorial. I ran through it the other day and had a lot of fun creating my own Discord bot. So definitely recommend it if anyone is interested in seeing how far you can actually stretch Python and what you can do with it. With all of that, we've had an absolutely incredible panel today. Thank you, Joanna, who I see is still here with your amazing background. And before we wrap up and before I hand it over to John Kim, thank you, Vivian, for volunteering, or well, more letting me go through your portfolio with you today. Not that I gave you much of a choice. And if you do have any further information about CCA or want to contact us, you can do that through the Facebook page. We're always online, ready to help if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can check out our Instagram, LinkedIn, any of our social media pages, and the committee will be there to help you out. John, over to you to finish off.
Thank you, Aditi. Well, to finish up, just before we wrap up, I just want to say massive thank you to, I guess, our brilliant panelists, even though they've left, but I'm sure everyone's enjoyed their wisdom as well as insight for, I guess, our future generations of women in tech. But also thank you to our MC, Aditi, as well as the rest of the CCA team who made this event possible. And obviously to all the attendees that came to our event today. This event wouldn't have been possible without you guys. So we hope that everyone today was able to take away something that will, I guess, either inspire you to push yourself or, live your passion in the future. And I guess, although the event is coming to an end, don't be disappointed. CCA do have many more events that are coming up. The first one is in collaboration with CISA, so Computing and Information Systems Student Association at University of Melbourne, as well as Amazon. On the 9th of September from 5 p.m. onwards, we'll be holding a super interactive event, which will let you learn about industry standard web applications, as well as Amazon technologies and so much more in the form of a Q&A session, as well as workshops. So if you think that building a cloud web application or building a AI face recognition app sounds like something you might be interested in, feel free to check out the event on Facebook. Secondly, CCA will be holding their annual general meeting, their AGM, to elect the new 2021 executive team. So keep a lookout on the release as it will happen during week 8. And lastly, CCA will also be collaborating with 180 Consulting in week 9. So for all these events, make sure to check out our CCA event Facebook. And once again, thank you to everyone for attending the event tonight, and we hope to see you guys again in our future events. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me as well.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Joanna.
Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.